Hello and welcome to this very special webinar from Suntico. To people that have in the past expressed an interest in using the ConnectBooks mobile app for Sage 50 accounting software. You may or may not be aware that the ConnectBooks service ceases at the end of this month, and the authors of ConnectBooks have invited you to this webinar to take a look at Suntico, a possible alternative to ConnectBooks. My name is Hugh Johnson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Business Development at Suntico. And after this webinar, you can reach me on LinkedIn, Google+, Twitter, or by email at hugh.johnson@suntico.com. The formal part of this webinar will take 30 minutes, and in that 30 minutes what I intend to do is to give you an overview understanding of what Suntico is, so you can evaluate whether or not it's something that might be relevant for your business, and also an indication of how to get, in fact a demonstration of how to get started with Suntico. Then after that we'll stay online to answer any questions that have come up during the webinar, and if you have any questions at all during the webinar, just in the interest of tidiness and neatness, everybody's microphone is switched off. But if you have any questions in your control panel for the webinar, you can just post those questions during the webinar. And if there are any burning questions that have come up, then we'll answer them at the end of the 30 minutes. So, without further ado, we'll get on with the rest of the presentation. So, if I had to summarize on one slide what it is that Suntico does, well, Suntico is an online business-to-business account management solution that turns the base data of your Sage 50 accounting system into powerful, precious information that can be used across the organization. In particular, that can be accessed and used by people that may not ordinarily have access to Sage 50 directly. If you look at productivity of small to medium-sized companies, what I've done here is I've plotted productivity of companies by company size in the US based on US business census statistics. I think the general trend here carries out across most of the globe, and actually what you'll find is once companies grow beyond about 5 employees, productivity drops quite sharply. And of course this is actually right in the heartland of many companies that would be using Sage 50 accounting. And the number one productivity killer, again, you might be different because I'm talking averages and so on, but the number one productivity killer in most companies is actually the inability for people to find the information that they need to do the job that they need to do. And in fact, McKinsey Global Institute a couple of years ago did quite an important study on this and concluded that knowledge workers can spend up to a day a week just searching for and sifting through information in order for them to get their job done. Now, as I've said, by way of positioning, Suntico is a B2B account management system that links in very, very tightly with Sage 50 accounting. And if you think about a business-to-business environment or B2B environment, at any one time, many people across the company might be interacting with the same customers. You may have finance, you might have sales, you might have marketing, you might have production, you might have delivery and dispatch, all interacting with the same customer around different issues to do with different orders and different activities with that customer. And it's really, really important for the entire business to be on the same page. And a lot of that valuable information that is needed across the business may be in Sage, or some of that information may be in Sage. And this is exactly the problem that Suntico is trying to solve. What I have here is I've just got a very, very brief comparison for you, just comparing, it's a little bit hard to see on the screen, but just positioning ConnectBooks against Suntico. And really all I'm trying to show is that in terms of accessing and updating the Sage information, that's clearly what ConnectBooks has been doing very, very well. And Suntico does it in a read-only way very well, and there's a lot of the read-write functionality is planned, and you'll see that. And I'll show you later on how you can find out what's coming down the line. But the main difference really with Suntico is around the collaboration aspects in terms of getting many people to access and use the data at the same time. So let me just flip back to the presentation. So, of course, most small businesses using Sage 50 accounting are busy. And if we start talking about implementing an account management system for the entire company, people get scared and they think of big projects and they haven't got the management time, and what about service and installation and training and setup and so on and so forth. So a design objective from Suntico right from the outset was to enable our customers to get up and running in the time it takes to have a cup of coffee. Now, that's the objective. Sometimes we hit that, sometimes we fall a little bit behind, but it's the overall objective. And even if we're a little bit behind, it's quids in for everybody, because it's still incredibly fast compared with the alternative. Now, that's enough of the kind of PowerPoint. Let's go in and actually take a look and see what I mean. What I have here is I'm logged in already into Suntico. And as you can see straight away, first thing to notice, it's a web-based system. So again, that's a difference from ConnectBooks, which is a native app for Android and iOS devices. Suntico is a web-based system, and that actually means you can access it from any computer, smartphone, tablet, Apple Mac, or whatever, as long as you have web access through a modern browser. Another point to notice is multi-company. So if I had many companies attached, I could toggle between them up here. And what I've got is I've got sample Sage 50 US demo data, Bellwether Garden Supply loaded. And then down the side you can see I've pulled up the various Sage data. I've got all the accounts listed here, for example. I've them split out in contacts, addresses as well. I've got the sales information split out down here, so if I just want to look at customers, for example, if I want to drill down and look at sales invoices and so on, I can see them all here. Okay, and we have a similar situation with the purchase. I'm not going to go in today and demonstrate every aspect of functionality, because after today you can register for yourself and try out Suntico for yourself. Now, the other thing is, just while I'm talking about company-wide access to your Sage information, Suntico is a multi-user system, and when you first connect up to Sage, what it does is uploads the employee file, which then makes it very, very easy to invite other users onto the system. So I've got a few users, 4 users connected to the system, and a whole host of others that I could invite. If they don't appear here, I could just invite them by email there. And any user that I set up on the system, I can control what they see and what they can do through controlling their access profile here. So that's just basically providing company-wide access to people to access the Sage data in a nice, friendly way, that especially for people that perhaps otherwise might not have access to it. So now let's drill down a little bit more, and what I want to do is I want to just show you then another difference, is where we can, or difference between Suntico and say Sage, is if I drill down and I'll call up a vendor record, and here I have Abney and Son contractors, for example. Got all the details here, Abney and Son contractors. Every record within the system has what you call a wall, which is rather like a kind of Facebook environment, and within that wall then I can create any kind of attachments or I can have any discussions, I can add files and so on. Now, if I just go back to the list there of Abney and Son contractors, just one small point, I drill down to the main account record, and then here I have all the transactions separated for the particular account. I drill down to purchase orders, for example, and if I wanted to just attach a quote to one of these purchase orders, I can just add the file here, and let's say I attach that purchase requisition to it, and and I can share that. Okay, that works much like a social network, and anyone that is following me or anyone that has access to purchase information and access to this vendor account record will be able to see that information. And again, it's just a small point, but actually within Sage 50 accounting, of course, you can't attach any files to either purchase orders or sales orders. And within Suntico, you can create attachments linked to any record within the system, and of course share that across the company. So it's not just limited to people that have access to Sage. So as I've kind of hinted at, is that every record within the system has this idea of a wall. So individual users have their own wall, just like if you're using Facebook or Twitter or so on. But actually every record within the system has their own wall, and that's this this column down here. So what the wall acts as is a very sophisticated way of sharing information, creating discussions, adding files and attachments that link to that particular record. The other thing you might notice is this first column down here, and this would be common to all of the records within the system again. And this is what I call a bookmark. Okay, and these bookmarks are personal to me, as in my logon. And so every user within the system, and you can have dozens of users, every user within the system can have their own bookmarks. And that means when they come in and log on to the system, their information appears at the top of the screen, or the information that's most relevant to them. And sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, and then the third column here is a follow button, which means that if I'm interested in a particular record, so take this Roberts Learning Centres, I've chosen to follow that record, I'm following it, and what that means then is in my wall, because every user then has their own wall, in my wall, every single record that is, every single note that is posted to Roberts Learning Centre will appear in my wall here. Again, rather like getting notifications via social media. Just a quick skirt around the system. Of course, we're not just talking about Sage records again. If one of the killers of productivity in a small business is getting access to information, one of those killers is actually sometimes finding your colleagues and finding information out about your colleagues. And of course, within Suntico, you can have all your colleague information loaded up. I can drill down to a colleague detail. I've already seen their email address, but I can also see any meetings or events that my colleagues are involved in. Very useful, actually, if you're a sales manager looking after sales reps and so on. Again, just jumping around a little bit, what I want to do is just show another area which is a little bit unusual, which would be the ability to create personalized lists. Let's reset that to the default view. And say, for example, here I've got a list of all customer accounts. If I wanted to filter that, so I wanted all accounts with a balance greater than, say, $10,000, say. Okay, so I've got 4 accounts with an outstanding balance of greater than $10,000. I say, okay, that's useful. What I want to do, I might want to use that list again and again and recall it. So I might want to save that as accounts with a balance exceeding $10,000. I can make that list public so other people can also share the benefit of my hard work there. And in this menu item here showing lists, I can just click on that, and there's my predefined list, and I can just go in there and that information is presented to me automatically. If I changed, and I'm not going to go into that just now because of time, but if I can actually change the columns here. I've got a column chooser, and I can change that presentation completely, and that would appear on my list when I come up. A couple of things I didn't mention. Every record within the system has a tag, or you can tag every record within the system, which again is useful from a kind of account management and sales point of view. And if you end up with duplicate tags, it's very easy to manage those tags and merge those tags, and that also becomes very useful for marketing. I think we've already seen quite a powerful search. If I just type in any string there, that searches across the entire system for any header information containing the string AB. If I want to get deeper into search, just again another unusual feature that we've included here is an entire list of all the line items that I have within the system. So from all transactions, all the product codes, all the line items, whether it's invoices, quotes, orders, and across all accounts. And it provides a very, very powerful way to search the history of what products I've sold to what customers, by what transactions, by what date, and so on and so forth. I can do that through all these filters and so on, and export that to Excel if I wanted. Again, just very briefly, what you will notice also on the what do you call it? Sorry. Notice on the menu, you've got the idea of events, and an event is an activity such as a customer meeting or sales meeting. You can customize the types of events that you have within the system, and you can link those events to a company or a customer record. So maybe I want to create an event, and I want to link that to a particular account, and let's say it's a customer meeting, and I want to set the date, let's say for the 30th of this month, and let's just save that. It's just very, very, very simple. And if I go in now, I mean that'll appear on my events list, but actually if I go into Teesdale Real Estate, and pull up the account record, if I search for events here, that event there, customer meeting on the 30th of June, is there. So actually you can create an event linked to any record within the system. I showed an example linked to a customer account, but you can create an event linked to any record within the system. And we have the same concept when we talk about tasks. Okay, so a task is rather like an event. And in fact, what I've done is I've gone in and I can see all the tasks outstanding relating to Teesdale Real Estate. And so really what I've shown is just a kind of whistle-stop tour of the kinds of functionality that we present within Suntico. And there's just one last thing I just want to touch on before I go into kind of how to get started. We go back to the dashboard. And it's this Mailchimp integration. And what we've done is we've created an integration with Mailchimp, which enables you to upload all your contacts into Mailchimp. So if you want to get started very easily doing monthly email newsletters, your definitive list by definition of customers is already within Sage 50 Accounting. All you need to do is set the link with Mailchimp, click upload, and that pushes all the data up into Mailchimp, and you have the list there. Now, clearly, actually, in this particular example, in the interest of time, I had actually prepared that before. But if I had another contact in there now and push that up, that list would be 75 contacts strong, and that integration works nicely. Now, the last thing I want to show you then is, if you like the look of Suntico and you think, oh, I'd like to actually have a try. We've got lots of how-to videos available on the website. What I wanted to show you is just how to get started. Oops, that's not the button I meant to press. I want to show you how to get started yourself. And I'm just going to connect in our and call it Hugh. Johnson, and I want to connect to Sage 50. I can connect to any of the flavors of Sage 50. I'm going to connect to Sage 50 US edition and sign up for my free trial now. And if I go to this temporary email thing and just verify my email address. So this is actually what you would do. I mean, you don't have to go to a mailing later, obviously. This is what you would do if you were trying Suntico for yourself. Give myself a password. And I hope I've given myself the same password on both lines, because that makes life a lot easier. And I can come back and fill in all the profile details later and the business defaults later on. I'll go straight to the application. This is the bit I want to show you, is actually how you get connected to your Sage 50 accounting software. It takes a few seconds just to actually create the account on the Suntico platform. And what I've got running on my machine, by the way, is I've got Sage 50 Accounting US Edition 2015. And so what I have here, just to prove now, I have no information, no contacts, no documents, no accounts or anything like that. And what I'll do is I'll download the Suntico connector. And just follow the instructions. Click run when it asks me to click run. And in fact, for your enjoyment, what I would recommend you do is, before you start this, get yourself a nice cup of coffee and actually see if you can do this in the time it takes to have a cup of coffee. If you get these warnings asking you for permissions, just say yes. Now, it's important that you install the connector on the same machine as where you host your Sage 50 accounting data. Now it's asking me for connector keys, which will be in my account here. Connector keys. Asks for a registration key. And asks for an activation key. And I hit next. And just one final verification. Am I sure it's Sage 50 US I want to connect to? Yes, it is. And it's the 2015 version that I want to connect to. It is important, it's the way Sage constructs their SDK, it is important to get the versions to match. And now it's downloading the correct version of the connector software to connect to Sage 50. Now what happens is that this connector will run in the background and it will do a first load of all the Sage data up into the Suntico database, and thereafter whenever Sage 50 is updated, then it just pushes those incremental updates up to Suntico. You can control from within your application how often that happens. It's just verifying the server name, which is correct. I want to connect to that, and it's going to go on a discovery looking for Sage 50 files. I'm going to connect to Bellwether Garden Supply. It's just establishing the connection now, and I finish. Okay. So what that's going to do now is it's going to connect to Bellwether Garden Supply, pull all that data out, and push it up into the Suntico Cloud database. Now, if I wanted to connect other companies later on, I can do so, but for the first connection, you connect to one company, and then you push up the rest of the data. Now, I'll just show you what's happening in the background. Is there we have the connector client software starting to run, and this runs as a Windows service in the background, which means that you don't really have to worry about it. It just sits there running away in the background. You can power off your machine, and when you power back on again, the connector service will restart and connect back into Sage 50 and resync. Now, if this is the first time you've connected to your Sage 50 and connected to that company within Sage 50, you will be prompted with a screen asking you to grant permission for third-party access to the data. It's probably not going to do this. Sometimes it does, and that's the way Sage 50 behaves. It's probably not going to do this in this case because I have actually, as you can probably guess, I've connected to this company many times before. And that's going to run away in the background. It's clearing the background history, and then it's going to connect into, now it's loads up the employee files and pushes them up first, and then it works through the rest of the data. Just in terms of you setting up and running the system, after you've loaded the system and you've got it going, you can decide online, you can adjust the time interval for your connector. I've got it set to live, which means it keeps coming back and polling for fresh information. You can relax that if you want and change that to another setting. Likewise, I mentioned the company is detected, say SPD manufacturing, but that's inactive. If I wanted to connect that later on, I just mark that as active, and then I get two companies coming up within the system. It's as easy as that. Now, what I'll do is I'll just go back to the dashboard. I'll switch over to Bellwether Garden Supply, and that data will be coming up through the system. Now, what I will do is I'll just go back to my PowerPoint. Sorry, I actually thought I had this all. I'm not as well organized for the PowerPoint as I normally am, so I apologize for that, but that's proof that I'm doing this live, I suppose. So, in terms of what we're looking at, what it means for your company, when I said the #1 productivity killer within small business, in fact with most businesses, is finding information. Well, actually what I've done very, very quickly today is I've shown you 12 ways, 9 ways in which you can help, Suntico helps you find information or what's going on across the company, and then another 3 ways in which you can put that information to good use to help with the productivity in your company. Now, I'll just flick back. Flick back to Sage 50 here, and remember we were talking about our employees coming up and the data coming up. Let's just have a look. And there we see the employee file has now all loaded up. We go back to the dashboard. I can see 69 contacts are now in the system. There weren't any before. Maybe there's some account information. I can't guarantee it because this is a live system, and it can take a few minutes for that information to process and come through onto the system. And actually, what's interesting is you can see the account information, but not all the contacts and the rep information has come through. If I refresh this screen now in a couple of minutes, that information will be through and published into the database. So I hope what you've seen has interested you, and I hope that you can see the power that Suntico can deliver to a busy SMB that's using Sage 50 accounting and perhaps wants to leverage the power of that data across the organization a bit better. In terms of what happens next and what's coming down the road, I did allude to the fact that there are many other developments happening. And actually, you can track what we're doing, and we publish that on our website. If you go to suntico.com/product-roadmap, what we do is we publish the product roadmap and what's going on. And there you can comment and you can provide your own feedback in terms of actually what you'd like to see in the product. But the big thing that's coming down the line this year will be the ability to create transactions and, for example, to be able to create invoices and create orders and push those back into Sage 50. So in terms of what next, well, If you think that this might be of interest to your organisation, what I would urge you to do is actually register for a free trial yourselves and get yourself connected. It'll cost you nothing but a few minutes, and a few minutes of time, maybe over a cup of coffee. And you know what? If you do that and you get connected by the end of this month to Suntico, I'll refund you your coffee and I'll send you a voucher for a cup of coffee at Starbucks, and you can enjoy that in the peace and quiet of wherever you want to enjoy it. After that, invite your colleagues and have a good play. There's a lot of videos and material available within Suntico after you've opened up your account to show you how to get started, and feel free to explore and provide feedback. I'd like to thank you for the attention. That ends the formal part of this webinar. I just want to check with my colleagues, see if any questions have come up, and no, so far there haven't been, and that's absolutely fine. But just remember, if you do have any questions, you can reach out to me directly, hugh.johnson@suntico.com, and thank you very, very much for your attention.